Blazer fans, you hear that intro music and you know it's time for the Blazer Victory Podcast to start season number 2. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Steve Irvine. And buddy, it's been a while since we've been on, but man, I'm glad to talk some ball with you tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back and talk to this. I've kind of been staring at the countdown clock for quite a while now here, trying to get ready for this thing because this, boy, there's a lot of excitement going into this season, and a lot of for a lot of reasons, and I think part of it is for the challenge, I mean, as good as this team is and will be, this schedule is going to be such a challenge, and that's going to be fun. I mean, it's going to be fun to go in there and week after week and know they got to play their best to win, and there's certainly no layups this year, so. Time to get rolling. Camp's getting ready, just around the corner, and it's time to go. Christmas is here.
Yes, it's starting to get real. It'll be here as soon as we know it, and fall camp is scheduled to start August the 3rd. So, what the podcast is going to look like, what we're going to do now is we're going to preview the 2021 UAB offense for you guys. And next week, expect another episode from us where we're going to do, a preview of the 2021 UAB defense and special teams for you guys. And what that'll do is that will lead up to fall camp. And, once fall camp starts, hopefully, we'll be able to get Steve in there, at least see some action and, kind of tell us what's going on. Because, on paper, as Steve just mentioned, the schedule is going to be tough. But also on paper, this team is deep. This, especially the defensive line, offensive line, very talented and deep. Really, at every position is, really just loaded with talent on this Bill Clark team. And, really, this is going to be, I think Bill Clark's, most talented team that he's had at UAB so far. But definitely the schedule is going to be one of the toughest that he's had. So we're definitely going to have to earn it again this year to try to get another ring. And Steve, I was able to, catch some of Conference USA media days that I know they did, unfortunately, over Zoom, but that's another story for another day. But I did get to see that bling that the guys have, those new rings, and they look sharp, buddy.
Oh man, they're crazy. They're crazy big, man. Yeah, I mean it's funny. I saw a side by side picture of the 18 ring compared to the to this year's ring, and it's the 18 ring looks like looks like you got it out of a toy box or something, or toy, was those Cracker Jacks, not, and the 18 ring was a beautiful ring. Now, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's just these things have a lot of bling to it, and that's good because I think last year was such a tough road for all for everybody in college football. I mean, but certainly for UAB, just for them to win a championship in that was, I think it deserves something a little more special or a little extra, I guess. And I tell you, it's just these rings are piling up a little bit, and it's kind of good to see.
It is, and going for another one this year. So definitely look forward to kicking it off on September 1st in Montgomery against Jacksonville State. So looking forward to that and starting the title defense for UAB this year. But we'll go over the offense with you guys, the 2021 offense, and I guess, Steve, where to start. But other than the quarterback position, let's go ahead and start.
No. We're starting up front now. Games are won up front.
There you go.
And this group up front this year is special now. So I'm sorry, I know you're the host, you're in charge. But I'm going to step on your toes here a minute, and we're going to start up front because I really think as important as a quarterback in every position is, I think this team, man, we got to talk about those guys up front. I mean,
let's go then. Let's go. These guys, all 5 starters are going to be coming back this year, Steve. Talk about the big nasties up front. I mean, this is going to be definitely the top offensive line in Conference USA, but definitely, it's going to be one of the best offensive lines in the country, I think. So
yeah, and and really technically, all 7 starters, because because Jacoby Jones started games and
Right.
played a big role. And, at the center position, you had both Will Reichert and Andrew Smith both started games, about the same amount. So you've got 7 guys up front that are returning starters, basically. Now they only have 5 spots, but 6 if they go in that jumbo package. But only have 5 spots. And honestly, here's the great thing about it to me too. As good as those 7 are, I mean, you could just have those 7 and be, probably the best offensive line in the conference. But then some of those guys aren't guaranteed to start. I mean, that they've got some guys behind them that are going to push them. So you're looking at most of the time when you say, hey, I got 5 returning starters up front, there's no competition in camp about who's going to start, provided they stay healthy. This camp, they're going to be competing, and it might change. It might change on a daily or, certainly a weekly basis on who's going to be the top 5, and that's what's cool. And what's cool too is you have a lot of versatility in those guys. I mean, you have pretty much everybody. Kadeem Telford will play nothing but left tackle. Taehan will play guard, probably right guard. That's where he's going to, comes back as a starter. Other than that, probably everybody else in that line can play at least 2 positions. Some of them can play 3, and so that's what's cool about it too. You got this versatility, and some of the new guys. I mean, I think Quincy McGee is a guard, and certainly Keyshawn Moore is a tackle. But you've got a lot of versatility, so you got a lot of different things you can do up front, with these guys, and that's what's great about it. I mean, you look at, you go back to the championship game last year, and you had Andrew Smith, who was your, basically what you consider your starting center, returning center. He played guard. And if you didn't know, if you just turned on the TV and never seen him play, or if you were, or if, and really didn't know much about it, you wouldn't have noticed that. But that's what's great about this is just they're so versatile that you can kind of mix and match it if you have to. But those 5 returning, the 5 that you call returning starters, they're special now, and they're all old and they're all experienced, and so it's exciting, and it's another thing too is you have some pretty good young guys. I think Eli Ritchie, Trey Badowski. I mean, I think there's some guys that are pretty good young offensive linemen that probably won't even get a chance to play, without injuries, type thing. That's how good you are with experienced guys. So it's exciting, man. I mean, it's these guys. It's exciting.
It is, and it just breeds competition. So expect things to really heat up in fall camp, because these guys they're going to be pushing each other. And you said there were the 7 guys having starting experience. I mean, they combined for 87 career starts as a unit. So this is just a very loaded and talented offensive line. And you mentioned Andrew Smith at center, but Will Reichert really capable at the center position. I mean, just deep, just pretty much plug and play on the offensive line. So it's just going to be really exciting to see how this offense does, this year, especially on the offensive line. But you mentioned some of those young guys, Keegan Vaughn, you mentioned Eli Ritchie. Just, I mean, hey, they can push for playing time too, coming in right away. So just definitely excited to see just how practice goes in fall camp, leading up into the game and throughout the year. And, unfortunately, you don't want to see any injuries, but, to be loaded on the line, and, we'll talk about next week on the defensive line, but just to have the depth, pretty much plug and play if something happens to somebody. And I hope to God we don't have to deal with the whole COVID, contact tracing again this year. But I mean,
but we might, that might be an issue. And I think too that we got to talk about, first off, just the leadership up front too. I mean, you've got a pair of just natural leaders in Colby Ragland and Sidney Wells. Probably those 2 are as good a leaders as they have on that team. But you also, when you're talking about this group, and we won't see until they get on the field. But Kadeem Telford, man, he would come on at the end of the year, and a lot of people had talked about him, and he had a dominant championship game. Even though I thought the best offensive lineman on the field in that championship game was Sidney Wells. I thought Sidney Wells was killing people in that championship game. But Kadeem Telford had really come on, and from what I understand, I haven't seen him. I've seen a picture of him, but I think he's, from what I've heard, he's lost quite a bit of weight, and more than lost weight, transformed his body a lot, so I think you're going to see a slimmer Kadeem Telford than we saw last year, and I think this guy is, if he has a year that they expect from him, I think you could see him being in the NFL draft next year. I mean, I think he's an NFL caliber guy if he reaches his potential, and so it's going to be so exciting to see him out there, and just see how different his body looks, and just how much more dominant he's going to be than he was at the end of last year. And I thought at the end of last year he was dominant. He was a very dominant player. So that's going to be fun to watch. And it's also going to be fun to watch occasionally. Maybe you got 6'8", 300 plus Kadeem Telford, whatever they list him right now at 6'8", 335. I don't know exactly what his weight is. You put him at left tackle, and you put big Keyshawn Moore, the JUCO kid coming in from Mississippi Gulf Coast, who's 6'8", 350 is what they list him at. So you got a couple 6'8" bookends over there, if that's if that's the way they if that's what happens at certain times. Certainly Sidney Wells is still the leader over there at right tackle, but occasionally you might be able to put a couple 6'8" tackles out there. And I'm not sure. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm not sure I remember that in Conference USA for a long time. To have somebody that has 2 6'8" tackles that are good.
Right.
Not just 2 6'8" fat
just
guys.
Bodies, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean they're good. I don't recall it, and certainly I don't recall it from at UAB. So that's exciting. But again, it's just there's just so many guys there, and there's some young guys that are good, but I just don't know that you're going to need them. Hopefully, because if you do, it'd be injuries or
right.
But because I think it's a situation that even if a guy looks really good, in camp, I think they're going to save. They would save it because they don't need them now. They don't need the young guys right now, and so. I don't mean to redirect the show, but I think that starting with those guys is this year especially is important because they're just so good up there.
No, definitely. I agree with you. And just one last thing about the offensive line. One of my favorite offensive lines in UAB football history was that 2018 offensive line, who they were kind of up there for the Joe Moore Award at the end of the season. But I expect even better things out of this year's unit. So definitely can't wait to see how those guys look this year.
Yeah, and I think kind of like that line. I think there's so many athletic guys on this team, because that was what was, to me, was so great about that line is first off, they were nasty, which is a great thing, and they were just so athletic that they just come get after you, pulling and just doing different things. And you can do the same thing with this group. It's going to be athletic and it's going to be nasty. And we'll see how it shakes out and who plays where. But no matter what, it's going to be a strength.
Definitely. Well, now I'll take us over to the quarterback position where Tyler Johnston returns this year. And, you guys remember last year, unfortunately, he did miss a couple games. I believe he missed 4 games due to an injury last year. But glad to have him back. And word was, he had a pretty good spring practice, and he looked. They didn't show a whole lot in that spring game, but you can go back and listen to our spring game recap episode, which was the previous episode, if you guys want to hear us talk about that. But I'm excited to see Tyler Johnston, what he's going to bring to the table again this year. We've mentioned previously, he's a winner. He's always going to be a winner. But last year, I do feel like he definitely was not near 100%. But just glad to hopefully have him as close to 100% as possible when we get towards kicking it off September 1st. But he's got a couple guys right behind him. And, we talked about him, during the spring game preview. Dylan Hopkins had a really good spring practice, and then Bryson Lucero came in and lit it up in the spring game a little bit. So just definitely great competition in that quarterback room. We still know that this is going to be Tyler Johnson's team, of course, to start. But I'm just excited to see how he progresses this year, and just hope that, the trend from last year where he only threw one interception, he's probably going to throw more than one interception this year, but just hope that kind of continues in the right direction for him.
Yeah, I think he made great choices last year, and there were times that there were times he probably should have had more than one interception at times, but I think the one thing, and I've said this over and over, and I don't care if you've heard it before. I'm a huge Tyler Johnson fan. I think that the guy, I don't care about the interceptions. I care about the interceptions, but I think that's part of it. What makes him good, man. I think that he just competes, and there's times where he, there's times where he might make a bad decision. But again, I've talked about this a lot too. Is it's easy to sit in the stands or behind a radio mic and not know exactly what the play call is and what people are supposed to do, and blame the quarterback for an interception, because that's just a natural thing to do. And there's times where, hey, there's no doubt he made a bad throw. Right. But there's also times where we don't know exactly what happened. It might not be his fault. He might have put the ball where the ball was supposed to be, and the guy's not there. He might have had a guy saw him and started to throw and got hit enough where it affected his throw because the coverage. Because the blocking, pass blocking broke down a little bit. So I think it's too easy sometimes to just say it's because of his bad decisions that the interceptions have been. It's just too easy to say that. Now, are there times where it's pretty, like I said, are there times where it's pretty obvious? Yeah, certainly there is. But it all comes out of being a competitor. And for the guy to, you can look at his injuries, and some people go, well, he's injury prone. Well, I guess. But you also look at the stuff he plays through.
Exactly.
To me, that's a bigger part of the story than saying he's injury prone. This guy is tough as nails, man.
And going back to that Miami game last year, we had no idea he was hurting then, and he played through that whole game pretty much.
Yeah. Well, he tried when I think when it happened, he tried to go back in. I think they finally told him to sit down. But it wasn't until later that he realized he was hurt, like he was too. Because honestly, I saw him on the plane, and he walked on fine. He looked fine. And from what I heard, it wasn't until later that night where he realized, once I guess his, adrenaline wears off or whatever, realized that, hey, something's not right, and he wasn't healthy from day one last year, he just, but the guy competes, and you almost, he's the type of guy that you almost have to put some sort of brace on him to make sure he doesn't go back on the field. You can steal his helmet. You can take his helmet and say you can't go back here, but he'll go take somebody else's helmet and run out there. He's just a tough kid, man. And he competes. And you think that as a leader, you think his teammates don't see that?
Right.
Darn right they see that. So I the criticism of him, and there's a lot of people that are critical, and a lot of people that, I don't get it. I don't, the guy, first off, the guy's won, helped his team win 2 championships in the last 3 years.
Right.
Was certainly a winner in high school. He's productive when he's out there. Even in the games he's made mistakes, he's been productive when he's out there. So, I hope we see a year where he stays healthy healthy enough to be on the field the whole time, because he's not going to be 100% healthy. Nobody is.
No.
Once the season starts, he's going to be banged up. But I hope it's nothing that keeps him out, and we can see him there the whole year. I do think that the biggest, there was about 2 or 3 things that, to me, personnel wise, in the spring that were, the big things that happened, and one of those was the fact that Dylan Hopkins reintroduced himself. I think that we sort of had forgotten him because of injuries, and he had a couple injuries last year. One
didn't play at all last year. Yeah.
No, he didn't play at all, and I think part of it was the contact tracing stuff, and part of it was a couple injuries he had, and sort of forgot about him. But I loved the way he played in the spring, and like I say, kind of introduced himself and really moved ahead of Lucero by the end of spring. Now that doesn't mean in fall camp we don't know what it'll have. I mean they'll compete again. But when you've got three guys that have started and have been successful at times, and I mean obviously there's they've struggled at times too, but I mean Dylan Hopkins was a quarterback for he quarterbacked him to the championship game, in 19. Yeah, and then Lucero had some good moments last year and had some struggling moments last year, but both those guys are going to be better than they were. And so, I think you look at with those three guys, I think you feel pretty good going into a season.
Definitely. And real quick, if you look at Lucero, the South Alabama game, I mean, he was on fire that game. If we could just get him to do that, for the rest of the season, if he's called upon, then we'd be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and he struggled. I mean, he struggled. When people, the advantage he had against South Alabama is they'd never seen him.
Right.
So they didn't really know, what his weaknesses were. And then when once you see him one time in a full game, then you start knowing, these coaches are good now. These defensive coaches know what they're doing. And so, they know how to take advantage of his weaknesses. And I think that was part of it. I mean, here, he's a guy that, he played at a great high school program, but he just didn't play much. And so he's just a guy he's going to get better with the more he plays. And he's still really young in the game. And he I mean, there's times where he throws those, especially those short and intermediate routes where you really got to put some mustard on it, and he can spin it now. He can spin those. I mean, there's times I've watched a lot this summer of games last year, and I mean, there's some throws he makes that I just play him back, and I'm like, wow, look at that throw, and I'll play it back and watch it because he can spin it. So, he's going to be better, and there was, and let's face it too, that day against South Alabama, as good as he was, Austin Watkins was Superman that night too, and
he was in beast mode that night.
Yeah. I mean, he made some plays. I mean, the opening ball where he threw deep for the long gain, it wasn't a good throw. I mean, it was just a great adjustment by Austin Watkins and to make the play. Right. So, I think that certainly helped him. And but no, he's improved. Dylan Hopkins has improved. Tyler's improved. So, I think that, I think you got to feel pretty good right there.
Definitely. And last thing on quarterback, Steve, that I want to mention is I can't wait to see Dylan Marotra coming in, from Baton Rouge, the freshman. I can't wait to see how he looks, in practice, actually getting to see him on the field and how he looks.
Yeah, because I thought his tape. I mean, I watched his tape, and I thought
highlights are nice.
Yeah. I mean, he made some athletic plays, and he's just he's kind of fun. I hadn't met him, but I mean, you look at his Twitter, and he's trying to recruit guys to come here, and he's really excited about being in Birmingham, and I think he's going to be a great guy in the locker room for him, and I hope nothing against him, but I hope he doesn't play this year. I hope other than maybe getting in some
garbage time or
4-game red shirt type thing, but hopefully they're healthy enough there where he can sit there and learn. But I think in the future he's going to be fun to watch.
Definitely. Well, from here, I think what we'll do is we'll move into previewing our running backs. And I believe we got a pretty good running back who actually gets to be running back number 1 this year. Steve, I think you like him a little bit. Dwayne McBride, I believe.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about this and you think when you lose a guy like Spencer Brown, who was just obviously the face of the program and just so good at so many times, so many big games, and when you think about it, you almost think like, well, I'm glad he's gone because now McBride gets a chance to get a full load of carries, and right. It sounds silly to say you're glad Spencer's gone, But in a way you are, because it gives the next guy, his next man up type
Right.
thing, and gives him a chance here. And that's what college football is all about. But he's special now. I mean, some of the runs, when we first knew it, obviously was when he spun against Western Kentucky, where he spun away and ran 71 for a touchdown. And
don't forget though that the South game too. Remember when we did our recap on the South game? I think it was like late.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we saw him have a couple good runs then. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And I'll never forget. One of their scrimmages last year, I didn't get a chance to. I went to one of them, but I didn't get a chance to go to one of them. And I just texted, a friend of mine who was there, somebody on the staff, and I said, hey, who played well, and the first name they listed was Dwayne McBride. And my first thought was, who? Because you just think about, Spencer and
Stanley,
all that. Yeah. Right. And it just didn't. And I'm like, who? And then I looked down, looked at my roster and, oh, that's that freshman from Florida. Okay. Well, that's surprising. But as soon as I saw him, I'm like, okay, that's not surprising. But yeah, I mean, he's special. He's a guy that, he's like Spencer in the fact that you're going to get tired of tackling him. He doesn't, you really didn't get a chance to see how durable he is last year, and how because that was a great thing about Spencer. Spencer got stronger as the game went on.
Yes.
And the great thing about, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, the great thing about McBride is he's got a chance to play college football now, so he knows what it's all about, but he's not beat up from his first year. Right. Spencer had to carry the ball so many times.
Man, from 17, yes.
Oh, he had to carry it so many times. So he was beat up going into sophomore year. Now, he handled it well, but he was still beat up going into sophomore year. But with this group, you got a chance to maybe give them some, they weren't very deep at running back in 17. Now they can be. You got obviously Lee Witherspoon's going to come in and, hopefully get some big plays for you. Obviously Lucius Stanley's still there, Larry Wooden, AJ Gates, might get a few carries. So you've got a chance to maybe to not have to carry, for him not to have to be Superman. Now there are some games where you're going to need him to be Superman. There are some games where he's going to have to carry the ball, 25, 30 times, which I think he can. But you're not going to have to do that day after day, game after game. So that's good, but people don't know, you can look at the highlight, people see those highlights and, think, okay, well, he's pretty good, but they don't know how special this guy could be. We've seen it, we've seen enough glimpses of it. He gained almost 10 yards a carry last year, 9 point something. And, if he would have, and he was ready to have more carries, they just didn't get a chance. So he's special. It's going to be fun.
Definitely. And even go back to the championship game. He had over 100 yards in the championship game, and he had to, kind of sit out a few plays because, he got a little nicked up during the game. We won't actually go into what exactly happened, but he.
Well, no, you mean when he got hit in the nuts?
Yeah.
No, but he also in the second half had a hamstring issue. So he didn't play probably the last quarter and a half, and Larry Wooden came in and took his carries. And the announcers didn't even know McBride was out of the game. That's how well Larry Wooden was running on a couple carries he had. They were saying, "Oh, McBride's hard to bring down." And I was like, "Dude, that's Larry Wooden."
Right.
But yeah, he was a little banged up. It wasn't a hamstring pull or anything like that. He would have played in the bowl game, but he just, he strained it that night, and it was a cold night, and I think that was kind of what happened. But yeah, he was. One of the things I wish would have happened last year is I wish he would have been the guy at Rice. I wish he wouldn't have, when Spencer couldn't play, which was unfortunate. I wish Spencer would have been the guy at Rice, but when he couldn't play, because of the COVID, I really wish that he would have had that chance to be the guy that day. And, I think that would have helped him. I think that would have helped him this year, having at least a game under him where he had to be, the guy. but he didn't, and he's gotten plenty. He got enough carries last year to really know what college football is all about, and I'm sure. I haven't seen him yet, before camp, but I'm sure with Lyle Henley's, off-season program, this is his first chance to have a full year off season. I'm sure he's a monster right now, and in great shape, and faster and stronger than ever. So it's he's gonna have a big year.
Yeah, and a lot of people are talking about Sincere McCormick at UTSA. Being the best running back in Conference USA, which he's earned that. He's earned it, but
yeah, there's no doubt.
Conference USA better be on alert though for DeWayne McBride. So they'll find out.
No doubt. No doubt. McCormick's the best. There's no doubt. He's an NFL running back. And probably next year. I would imagine he'll go after. I would guess he'd go after this year. Maybe not, but I would guess he would. As long as he stays healthy as this year and has the same kind of year, but. I'm not sure after him, Price at FIU is really good, and there's a couple other guys that are good, but I don't know that there's another one as good as DeWayne McBride. A number one running back, DeWayne McBride, in this conference, other than Sincere McCormick.
Definitely. Before we move on to our wide receivers, Steve, I do. Can you talk to us a little bit about AJ Gates coming over from Alabama?
Oh man, I tell you what, this kid in high school was dynamic. Now, he was one of those kids that, every time he touched it, you kind of held your breath, unless you were from Mountain Brook, and then you were excited he had the ball in his hand. But if you're on the other team, you just held your breath. He's quick, he's strong, he's 5'7" listed. But here's the deal. He was a big time high school running back. He spent 2 years at Alabama. He was a preferred walk on. But he was, they brought him there, and so if he's good enough to go and play in that program, didn't play in a game that I know of, but practice every day against those guys, scout team, whatever, practice, got the coaching, and was in their weight program for 2 years. So he'll be better than ever coming in. He'll be ready to play. Now, how many carries he'll get, I don't know, but he's the kind of guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's quick. He's fast. Again, he's you hold your breath. He can. In high school, you felt like he could score every time he touched the ball. And so I think he's going to come in and have a chance. To play. Yeah. Now when you get him, and Witherspoon obviously was the same way in high school. Playing a different level. That's the one thing too that AJ Gates had is, when you play in that region in 7A, at the time they were in 7A, obviously they're in 6A now at Mountain Brook, but 7A, against, the Hoovers and Thompsons and, Vestavias. Are you kidding me? This, so he played at the best, highest level, and was darn good, and the Witherspoon, had 59 touchdowns or whatever the heck it was in his 1 year. So you got a couple home run hitters right there, and that's what they're going to do. That's what when they get in there, they're going to try to get them in space and, make them make you tackle them with one guy and see what happens. But I'm really excited to see Witherspoon. Really the spring game didn't really get a chance to get started, because I think that it just, it just never, and then the one time he really got going, Michael Fairbanks made a great play and came from behind him and stripped the ball from him, and he fumbled. So I'm excited to see what, because I think there was a couple injuries for him, not injuries, but he was banged up a little bit in spring and didn't get to play as much. So I'm excited to see him healthy and running around too. So I think with those two guys from the running back position, they're going to have a chance to get them in space and and do some things. So that'll be fun to watch. But I was really excited when I saw AJ Gates on the roster. I didn't know that was happening until I saw the roster.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad to get him, and get Witherspoon. Two SEC transfers, you can't beat that, man.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on to our wide receivers. Now, if you guys listen to us in the spring, we kind of left spring saying that this unit was going to be the one question mark on the offensive side of the ball for UAB. Steve, are we still kind of feeling the same way, even though, we do, I believe in spring, though, we didn't have the Penn State transfer, TJ Jones, and, some other guys too. So I'll let you talk about it.
Well, I did obviously leave spring practice wondering what, even though some good things happened in the spring that made you feel a little better.
Yeah.
I think that the two big additions since then that we didn't know that, at the time had not happened with the TJ Jones, from Penn State, and then Taywan Palmer, who was a wide receiver from Snow Junior College from Milwaukee originally, and played at Snow Junior College in Utah this spring. They played the spring ball for in JUCO, and they played in a national championship game, and he had in the national championship game, I think he had 5 catches for 190 yards or something like that, one long touchdown, another catch that he went up over a guy, made the catch, and they kind of came down, both of them together with the ball. He had control of it, and the ref called it an interception.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's that puts him over 200 yards probably if they call it correctly. But he's good. I mean, he's now obviously he's not playing against cornerbacks. The cornerbacks he's going to play, in college, and really the defenses and the schemes and stuff he's going to play with are not going. They're a lot better than they play. He played it at Snow against, but I think he's a guy that. It looks like he can extend the field and get downfield. A big, strong guy, almost like an Austin Watkins looking guy. You hate to say he's going to be Austin Watkins till you see him do it, because that's, Austin Watkins is pretty special. But I think with those two guys in the mix of what they proved in spring, some guys have stepped up in spring. And the other thing is, you look at Fred Ferrier Jr., Fred Ferrier II, and Jordan Palmer, they're two true freshmen coming in. You watch film of those guys and you think like they're athletic, strong, bigger guys. So you think they might be able to step in and play, as freshmen, if needed to. So you got 4 guys right there that are going to come in to help, and so I feel pretty good about that position now coming in, because you got Trey Shropshire obviously was great in the championship game, and he's going to be your
right.
He should, hopefully he'll step in and be the number 1 guy, or you be kind of your go-to guy, and then you have Ryan Davis. I talked earlier about the things that happened in the spring that were huge, and Dylan Hopkins, but I think the other thing offensively that happened in the spring was Ryan Davis, and what he can do, because I think he looks like he really is ready to be the guy, and I think with him, I think we talked about it after the spring, but one thing Coach Clark told me about when I asked him about him was he had always played baseball. He was a big time, really good baseball player in high school, so he always went from, when football season over, he went right into baseball training, and really never had an off season of weightlifting, and he's one of the guys since he's been at UAB that has made as many strides as anybody is physically, so he's faster than he's ever been. He's stronger than he's ever been. He's certainly not a big guy, but he's added to his strength. And so I think he's going to be, I think he's going to have a, really big year. I loved him, and caught everything in spring. In the scrimmage I saw, he had a couple catches in the
spring game.
And he also had 2 catches against Louisiana last year. One of them was a big time, went up and got the ball on a 3rd down, kind of in a deep seam, and went up and got it. And so I think he's shown flashes, but I think I see him being big for him this year. And the other thing I liked in the spring that you didn't see as much, but you saw glimpses of, was what they can do out of the slot position. Because you got Ryan Davis playing the slot, you got Jermaine Brown playing the slot. You're probably going to have some Mario Rudolph either playing part-time at the slot, maybe going outside some too, depending on who is playing well. or what they need. But you have three. If you have those 3 guys we listed right there, you have 3 playmakers right there. So you can do so many different things with those guys, and they're all kind of different. Jermaine Brown to me is going to be a huge part of this offense. I mean, as far as you can run him on jet sweep stuff, you can do some third down stuff with getting the ball quick and let him make plays. You can get him out out in the flat, and so I think that's going to be, to me, a position that they really need to use. And I think they will. I mean, I think that's a position. And then if Raj Johnson Sanders Johnson, whatever order that goes, if he can finally reach what his potential is, and I thought he showed at times in the spring that he's ready, and I mean he had a couple of nice catches in the spring game, late in the spring game, and so you add him to that mix too, and all of a sudden you look at it and you go like, wow, this is some could be a deep position that could do some good things, and one thing you don't know about them and that you're going to have to do in this offense is you don't know how they're going to block, and I think that's what's made their running game. That's a big part of their running game over the years, over these since Bill Clark's been there. I mean, Austin Watkins was a great blocker. Myron Mitchell was a really good blocker. Parham, when he was there, was a really good blocker. So these guys, they can't just run down the field. They're going to have to be blockers, and that's going to be a big part of it too. If these guys can block like those other guys, and that's not something we're really going to be able to see until a game. The coaches will be able to see it obviously, but we're not going to really see it to a game. So that's going to be a big part. How these guys adapt to becoming blockers too.
Definitely, and I'm glad, Steve, that you mentioned Rajay Johnson Sanders. He was a high recruit out of JUCO, and
oh yeah,
and I do think he had a really good spring game. He had definitely one ball that he went up and grabbed. I think it was either Hopkins or Lucero that threw him that ball. But I came out of the spring game, and that was one of my things that I took out of the spring game, that I was really glad to see him look good in the spring game, and definitely hopeful that he'll translate that to the season this year. And I guess we can also go ahead and talk about the tight ends. I mean, but they're already proven. Hayden Pittman and Garrett Prince, they're proven.
Yeah, I mean, that's the strength of this thing with those two guys, and I think we're ready to see Malik Bryant do some more things, and
yes,
certainly Terrell McDonald showed some flashes last year, and in the spring was really good. So those 4 guys, I think you're ready to and you see all 4 of them are going to get a chance. But Hayden Pittman, Prince has been good, and Prince is real good, but to me Hayden Pittman has been borderline MVP type stuff, with the stuff he does, and I'm talking about the way he blocks, the way he he catches it when he needs to, makes big catches, his goofy personality that I think really they're really just kind of brings a team together. I think he's a team leader in a goofy sort of way, but I think he's been so important in so many ways to this program. And the other thing is, he's improved so much since he's gotten there, and guys see that, and I think that's through hard work too. So I think he's led by example. He's led by again, just being kind of goofy and being a leader, in that way. But that, I mean, if you to me, he's an all-conference player just for his blocking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy's a great blocker.
He
is a great blocker, and he's also can catch the ball and that type of thing. But man, he blocks the heck out of you, and so he's been one of the glue guys for a long time, and so and with him and Prince, I think they're roommates, or they were. I think they still are, and so they kind of, they're kind of leaders and kind of follow each other. So that's a big position.
Definitely. Well, Steve, buddy, I think we hit on all of our positions for this 2021 offensive preview for the UAB Blazers. Now I do just want to talk to you just real quick before we end this episode. Coach Clark has always wanted a balanced offense, and I feel like last year they were really balanced, with the run game and with the pass game. But what, in your opinion, does this offense need to do to kind of take that next step in this 2021 season?
I think, it's going to sound strange because this is what they do, but I think obviously run the football with a lot of success. I think that's going to start everything with this team. But I think that the one thing that might be a little different is I think they need to take advantage of the versatility, and they need to take, like I said, they need to take advantage of the slot receiver and have them doing different things. They need to take advantage of different guys in the backfield that can do different things, particularly Witherspoon and maybe Gates, and really even Lucius Stanley's a guy that can, get on the edge and make big plays. I think they've got to make sure to take advantage again of their versatility, because I think they have a lot of it, and if Tyler Johnson's healthy enough to run, without worrying about, getting him banged up, then they need to take advantage of him, running the football. And if he's not, then they need to, take advantage of Dylan Hopkins coming in and running the football.
Bring him in for a couple plays.
In certain situations. Because the great thing about him now is, they know he can throw the ball too. So it's not just one of those things where you come in and, like a wildcat sort of thing where you come in, they're not going to throw the ball. With him, you got to be wary of him throwing the ball. So I think take advantage of everything that you're so deep and so different, multi-talented, multifaceted type stuff. I think taking advantage of all that is going to be really, really key this year, instead of just lining up and trying to, pound the ball at people, even though at times you're going to do that, and they've got to be able to do that. But I don't think you can just sit back and just do that, and just sit back and do that and occasionally try to hit a deep ball. I don't think that's what you need right now for this group. Now there's years where that's okay. There is years where that's okay. This group, I don't think so. I think you have a lot of different type of pieces in there that you need to take advantage of.
Right, because I was just about to say, buddy, this schedule, they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to need to take some shots.
Yeah. The schedule is they're going to have to take some shots, and they're going to have to they're going to as good as they are defensively, as great as they are defensively, and we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Right,
they're going to have to win a couple of these games offensively, and that's something that they really haven't done since the return. It's always been, okay, well, let's win it with the defense and for the most part. But there's some games where they're going to have to say, hey, we're going to have to go out and score, and keep our foot on the gas for the entire time, and I think they have the pieces to do that, and I'm not sure they've had, completely the pieces to do that in the past. They've had a little bit of it, but not fully, which I think they got the pieces now. So I think that'll be key, and I think they will. I think that they have things in place to do that. It's just a matter of going out and doing it.
Definitely, and I think they know that they need to do that this year. So definitely look forward to see what happens. But guys, thank you so much for listening to us. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us on either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you're getting the Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us right now. Subscribe to us or follow us, just to make sure that, as Steve just mentioned, we're going to do a defensive episode for you next week. So go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button to make sure that you don't miss our next episode coming for you. But also, if you're not already, give us a follow on Twitter at twitter.com/blazerpod. I think we're trying to get to 500 followers now. So definitely, help us achieve that goal and give us a follow. But on that note, guys, we'll see you guys next week. And as always, go Blazers.